because your brain doesn't work like everybody else, and you make up so many stories about who you are because you're not like little Susie that you're sitting next to in kindergarten, and you're not like, Billy, and because you're not doing things the same, and because you come at it so differently, which is, of course, a blessing when you're old enough to see it, but you still are struggling with all those feelings and emotions.
All right. Welcome to ADHD and with Jorie Houlihan. I am your host, Jorie Houlihan, your guide for the dopamine deprived. Today, we are going to do something a little different than I normally do. So, when I first started talking about doing this podcast, my dear friend Gigi Verrey was like, we should do a panel about our ADHD differences because she has ADHD and I have ADHD, but they're very different in a lot of ways. And we just thought it would be really fun. And so we have decided to do it, and we have called it the panel of two because we are just that original. Anyway, so welcome, Gigi.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited about being here.
So some of you may remember Gigi. She was my very first interview on this podcast, episode 2 from season 1. So go check it out because it's awesome. So the theme this month has basically been about relationships and emotional regulation and things like that. And so I said, let's talk about relationships and how we tend to respond to certain things, whatever. So the first question I so the first question I have for you. So
Just just makes me smile because when she said this to me, I was like, "Holy shit, where are we going with this?"
I was like, okay, so it doesn't have to be romantic relationships, but let's also maybe not throw our husbands under the bus just yet. Just kidding. We both have wonderful spouses, but there are things that they don't always understand. I tell my husband all the time that he would be so bored without me.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, I don't disagree. I could use a little more boredom, a little. But,
No.
I'm like, nah. That plus we have 2 ADHD kids. Like he doesn't stand a chance. So
Right.
anyway, all right, but I also wanted to talk about friendships, and this also some of my questions really kind of cover all relationships as far as the
Right.
ones I'm asking you, but ADHD does impact all relationships on some level. So, my question to you is, and I'm pretty sure I already know the answer to this, have you ever been mid conversation with a friend and then suddenly realize you have absolutely no idea what they just said?
Yeah. Yeah, and thankfully, my I treasure my friendships, my friends, my friendships, and they know me so well, and they know, like, they that look that I get because I'm off, and oftentimes, mostly it's because I'm thinking deeply about what they've said a couple of minutes ago, and I'm off on a tangent. And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And so I will have to say to them, "I'm so sorry, but I have figured out, a solution to what you were talking about." In the beginning of a relationship, a friendship, you have to explain it to people.
True story. I accidentally signed up to volunteer for the library because I went off on one of those tangents and I came back and I was brand new to the area and the school and I was so embarrassed to say I have no idea what we're talking about. And I was like, "Uh-huh." They're like, "Great. Okay, so I'll put you down." And I was like, "What did I just sign up for?" Thankfully, it was the library and I loved doing it, but I literally signed up for a committee because I was too embarrassed at that time. I was undiagnosed at the time. But I was yeah, so it happens, that is for sure. So that leads me into another so conversations where minds wander is part of it, and the tangents. I like that you brought up tangents because, when we tell stories, would you agree that they tend to be full of nice, full tangents that we understand how they got there, but
Yeah, I've gotten better at stopping myself, and I'll be like, "Oh, wait, I'm better at self-editing." Well, my husband wouldn't agree with that. He's like, "Oh my god, wrap it up." But I've gotten really good at looking at the glazing eyes on people, because I think that detail is really important. It's not.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not. Our brains can't prioritize in real time that way, so we tend to think that every detail of the story is vital to the telling of the story,
It
right?
is
And
not. It is
90%
not.
of the things I say are not actually needed, but, Have you ever gotten so excited in a conversation that you maybe accidentally hijacked it a bit and then felt really bad afterwards? Or maybe you didn't feel bad, I don't know.
Well, sometimes I haven't paid attention enough to realize that I hijacked it, and then after the fact, I felt really bad. Like, I thought to myself, Did I, like, hijack that conversation? Hijack's, like, such the perfect word. Did I do that? Did I hurt that person's feelings? And I'm like, "Holy shit, did I?" 'Cause, like, I tend to think I'm a kind person. I think you think I'm a kind person. Like, I go out of
Yeah.
my way to help people. So sometimes when I believe I've hurt somebody's feelings, I'm like, I'm devastated. And that's a real challenge with ADD because you do interrupt. You do try to not try, you learn the tools to keep from interrupting. And part of it is the devastation that you feel when you do interrupt or you do hurt someone's feelings. And because of that pain and that shame, you do learn, you still do it,
Yeah. I was gonna
but
say,
but it keeps you from doing it a little less, I think.
yeah, I have found that when I am trying to not interrupt, I am so focused on trying to not interrupt that I'm still not listening because
Oh,
I'm going through a whole thing in my head like, well, is this really necessary to say? Am I really adding to the conversation? So if I'm having this conversation with myself, how much do you think I'm listening, right? It is like a never ending thing. And the thing is, tell me if you would agree with this. A lot of times when we're telling these stories, right? So the first time I learned about what we're talking about, I'd heard it called anecdotal communication. Or this is a version of it where somebody says, "Oh, I went through this situation," and you've been through something similar, and you're like, "Oh, I've been through that too," and you start to tell them what you went through.
yes.
Okay, and then I found out that
And
that's a no no apparently, and I was
big,
devastated.
giant, humongous, horrible, strata it's just a horrible no-no.
I know, and I was devastated because 'cause I've literally communicated this way my entire life. I was like, "Oh my gosh, all this time I thought I was connecting with people and people thought I was an asshole. Like, what the hell?"
Capital
And
A.
yeah, and I just thought, how do I not do that? And it's so one I struggle with because I think, how do you get to know people if you don't talk about the things you have in common, first of all?
Yeah,
But the other part of this is, and I this is I will die on this hill. I'm always going to err on the side of making sure somebody doesn't feel alone.
yes.
And a lot of times it is me trying to help the other person see they're not alone, but they don't need all of my story. I'm learning to say, "Oh, I've been through that too. What did you do?" kind of a thing. So now they know.
I was just gonna say to the people listening to us today, what do you do? How do you turn it around? Like, I love that. I was talking to somebody recently about this exact same thing, like to get somebody to talk about it or somebody's going through a tough time to be able to say, "Well, tell me more about that."
Mhm.
Instead of, like, well, how did you handle that? Or, gosh, that must have been rough. You turn it around and say, tell me more about that. And then that just opens it up.
Yes. And the other thing I found out too was that apparently neurotypical people can vent about something and then just move on. And
What?
I'm like, "What is this moving on you speak of?" I have no like, I'm in it now, right? And it's because that drama, whatever it was,
Dopamine?
it gives you adrenaline that mimics dopamine, but I was like, "Oh, that's what," so they don't even sometimes they just need to vent it and move on, but we're like, "Well, now we're invested, come on?" I was just like, "Wow, I had no idea that people could just do that." That's, like,
Yeah,
crazy to me. Do you
it's
struggle with
totally,
that?
yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. And I really never realized that wasn't normal because we don't
Yeah.
know anything else,
Yeah.
right? I'm
Yeah.
like, what do you mean you don't lament on this for like hours and hours and hours?
I call it marinate in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that word.
Um, so yeah, it's never dull, I tell you. And you brought up a good point though, which is so let's say you did accidentally hijack a conversation. We were talking about like I always feel really bad too. And I never really know how to approach it. Like, do I say something like, hey, I'm really sorry. I totally
Yes.
took over that conversation. Is that what you do?
Yeah, yeah, not that I have an opinion, I on anything, I always acknowledge it. I just want people to know because we're human,
Yeah.
right? We're human, and and the minute I notice it, even if I'm interrupting them again, at that point in time, who gives a shit? You've already interrupted, just do it again, right? So I Right? So, like,
Yeah.
I just say, I am because it feels so heartfelt, I am truly sorry. I just interrupted you. I don't come out and say, I've got that hyperactivity thing going in my brain. I don't say that, but if people know, or I'll say, apologies. But people who know me well enough know that that's what's going on. But I do always apologize. I think it's
Yeah.
really important because when people take the time to communicate with you in a thoughtful way, I interrupt them, it's just important for them to know that I'm truly sorry.
Yeah. I actually have a really good friend, Erin, who this was years ago, and I would interrupt because I was really excited about something, and she'd be like, "Wait, I'm still talking." And I'm like, "Oh, you're right. Yeah." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay." But it was nice because it wasn't like she wasn't a jerk about it. It was just like,
Yeah,
"Hold on, let me finish." And I think that, for people, because we do struggle with friendships, and this is in part why, like, those are the people you want to surround yourself with, right?
yeah,
Because they even if they don't have ADHD themselves, the fact that they can be kind about it and they get it, like, in the fact that they
yeah,
know that sometimes it it just is gonna happen.
yeah.
I think it's very much about sort of that whole it takes a village, and it takes a village to for eh, not just children, even for adults, in my opinions.
Well,
So
and we attract each other. Guess
oh,
what,
yeah.
people? We attract
I
people with ADHD. We attract each other, and I tend to say, if somebody's interrupting me, I tend to say, "Hold, please. I'm not finished." Or
Mhm.
something funny like that. Because I have a friend who has, we have it our whole lives, right? Just hasn't been diagnosed. And she just got diagnosed at 62.
Mhm.
And she just started Adderall. And I think you know who I'm talking about.
I think I do.
Yeah. And I would do that all the time. And now she gets it because she's been on Adderall now for 3 weeks. And she's
Mhm.
like, she said, I'm going to go off on a tangent. Sorry.
Mhm.
Real quick.
It's all good.
My Adderall's just wearing off. So she so she said to me, this Adderall, I don't know if it's really working. She said, but something like, but I did get my mother all signed up for Medicare. I'm like, I think it's working.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Talk
Yeah,
about needing executive functioning.
yeah. But
Oh
anyway,
my
I
gosh.
sorry, I
Yeah.
digress. But
No, that's funny because yeah, it's interesting when you first started and you're like, "I don't know, is it working?" And the first day I was on it, my husband was like, "You stopped, you picked something up and you threw it away." And I was like, "Oh, there's hope." Because I would normally just walk right by whatever it was and because
yeah,
I didn't see it anymore. That didn't last. I won't say it still happens, but it's better than it was. So, it is what it is. But also back to what you were saying about how we find each other when I would be questioning over the years whether or not I had ADHD, and I'd be like, "Well, so and so does that, and she doesn't have it." And then years later, I find out like all of them have it. They were
yeah.
all undiagnosed. I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, that explains a few things."
That
So,
explains it. Yeah.
if all of your friends have ADHD and you think you don't, I'm just saying. I can't say for sure you do, but
Right. Right.
anyway. A lot of your friends do know that you have ADHD. So, my next question though is because out of sight, out of mind is a big component, and that includes people. And so, have you figured out any hacks, tips, or anything that help you to stay connected with friends, but also that it doesn't feel like just another to do list thing?
Well, I don't have a lot of friends anymore. So, as harsh as that may sound, at my age, I won't say my age, I usually do, but I decided not to anymore. How's that?
Okay. All right.
Yes. And that'll change next week. That's a today thing. I don't have a lot of friends, and I don't, I have, 5, 6 close friends. You're one of them. That I really stay in touch with. And then I'm like, "Oh my god, when's your birthday?" So anyway, that's a tangent, people. I'm sure you know that.
What's funny is I actually find that people with ADHD follow the tangents no problem. It's the
Yeah.
neurotypical people are like, "How did you get there?"
Yeah.
But everybody who's neurodivergent is like, "Isn't it obvious?"
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
My own
Wait,
tangent.
yeah, I'm sorry, what were we talking about? Oh, yeah, people. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
People. So in terms of friends, I have, 5 or 6 really close friends, and staying in touch is easy for me. And the, secondary folks, I text them every once in a while, and the tertiary, I don't mean to sound harsh, but, I only have so much time. I work full time. I have a lot of interests that keep me very, very busy. I have a very successful career. I love my friends, but my core friends are really, really important to me, and I spend a lot of time with them,
Yeah.
for example.
Yes.
But along those lines, in terms of texting, for example, when
Mhm.
somebody texts me, I text right back because that's my hyperactivity. My hyperactivity does live on the outside from the standpoint that when I start a project, it's all over the house, right? It's
Yeah.
all over the house. Like I have these two big islands, and I'm on a project, and my husband's like, "Oh my god, oh my god." And my projects are cockamamie, like, I buy these napkins and I'm covering lamps with them. And the projects come out really cool and they end up on Instagram and people are like, "Oh, that's a really smart idea." And it usually is, but my poor husband has to live through it. So
Yeah.
that's the hyperactivity on the outside, but the hyperactivity on the inside, which is what a lot of people don't understand with ADHD, the hyperactivity really lives on the inside of the brain.
Yeah.
And it's the all
Partic
the
I was gonna say particularly for women.
Yeah, I mean, the 2,047 open files on the inside of my brain, right? That are right
Mhm.
now in there and that are uninterrupted when I'm on my Adderall. And then it's still when the Adderall goes off, right? When it wears off. So, in terms of going back to texting, I text right away. And that's how I keep it together.
Yeah, see, I am so jealous of that because I don't. Try to have scheduled times of day where I will look at them, but sometimes I'm not paying attention, it goes off, I look at it, and I'm like, "Oh, shoot." And I may be in a place where, like, either I can't return the text or I have to go look something up for them, and that's where my big issue comes from. Because then I'm just like, "How am I gonna remember to text them back?" And so I will mark it as unread, I might pin them to the top of my thing, but sometimes still, I mean, oh my god, my friend Laura, she must wanna kill me some days because 'cause she'll text me and I'll realize, like, 3 days later at least, "Oh my god, I never texted her back."
Here's how you fix that. And I've talked to other friends like this, and hopefully this helps you guys out there listening. What you do is tell Laura to text you again. If she hasn't heard from you in a day, have her text you again and have it be all caps. Text me back, bitch.
Oh, she will love that.
Yeah.
I don't know if she'll
Just
do
have
it,
her
but she'll love it.
But have her I mean, she doesn't have to use the biatch, but, text me back. I need to hear from you or whatever it is because we make really good friends. I know you make a great friend. I know I make a
Oh,
great
thank you.
friend, and I
You
know
do?
all you out there listening make great friends. So, we have to just train our friends too.
Mhm.
That this is who we are. This is how our brains work, and we need your help.
I talk a lot about how ADHD is an explanation, is not an excuse, and so
Yes, yes,
I
yes, 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 yes.
and so while I don't believe in the whole, "Well, I have ADHD, deal with it," I think it is reasonable to ask for understanding and to say, "This is something I am working on," because I am genuinely working on trying to be better about texting back. Meanwhile, send me an extra text that's like, "Text me back, bitch," right? Like, something
Yeah.
while I'm
Something
still getting that
funny or yeah, especially
yeah,
if you
like, have
need
us
me.
or if I disappear, because sometimes I disappear for a while because out of sight, out of mind, right?
I
Like, just
I
everyone
call you.
yeah. Or somebody will send me they'll be like, "I haven't heard from you, I'm sending you a funny video," kind of thing, but regardless, I think it's okay to ask for understanding, but it's not okay to just be like, "Sorry, deal with it," with everything. Like, there are some things I think you can say, "Look, I have worked on this and worked on it and worked on it, and this is just always gonna be a big struggle for me, so I really need your understanding and help with this." But it's not okay to shove everything onto somebody else's plate because that puts it on the other person, and that's not fair to them either, right? A few things maybe, but not the whole not the whole enchilada, if you will. All right, well, that is all the questions I have for you at this point. Do you have anything you wanna add?
Well, I have some questions. So, one of the funniest places I ever found my phone, and I would love you guys to tell Jory where you find your phone, but it was the refrigerator.
Me
Like,
too!
you too? Like,
Me too!
who the hell needs their phone near the refrigerator? I set
I
my
think I
phone
have.
there.
I think I have it in my hand. I open it, I find what I want, but maybe I need both hands or something, and I just absentmindedly set it down and walk out, and then I just forget it's in there.
So the word is absentmindedly, right?
I would say that, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not like an intentional thing, that would be a real problem, but no, I don't do it as much now, but I definitely did it when I was younger. I would, like, spend so much time, like, "Where's my phone? Where's my phone?" Or even car keys or any of those things,
So my phone,
and
that's my
yeah.
thing. So Rob's like, we're for the 50th time. So find my phone is a big thing. So make sure your husband, spouse, significant other, whomever your lover is, or your
Yep.
kid, your son, whoever, have them have find my phone on their phone, your phone on theirs. And that has saved us on so many occasions. Although in the fridge, it was like, where is that?
What I know.
And walk
Yeah.
by. It was kind of like one of these.
Yeah, like, "It's around here somewhere." Well, I use my Apple Watch is a miracle worker in terms of me finding my phone and my AirPods, and I have AirTags on a lot of things because I
You
had
buy
it
them
at
in
one point.
bulk.
Yeah, we kinda do. I had, I at one point had it on my water bottle, I still have it on a set of keys, and then when
AirTags.
AirTags, they're great. And but my watch, I joke all the time that whoever invented the Apple Watch either has ADHD or they have a loved one who has it because I can ping my phone so easily now. It's awesome.
It's awesome. The other thing that saved us is a shared calendar.
Oh
And
yeah.
so, whether you use Google or Outlook,
We have a shared Google Calendar. We've been doing that long before kids and that has been very helpful
it's
because I'm not.
vital.
Because it's just if I have to try and remember not only my own calendar, but his too, forget about it. The other thing I do in terms of my phone is I have, like, bright cases. So, like, this is my bright pink one. My phone is actually what's filming this, so it's not in there now because it won't fit in there with the case on, but it's gotta be bright and pink, or it's just something that's really gonna grab my attention, and it
Yeah.
has to have, like, a hot pink lanyard thing because that also helps me find it. My husband has this really weird photographic memory, like, he can't do it for anything useful like counting cards or something,
I
but
thought
he
you were going to say he has a bright pink case too.
oh, no, no, God, no. No, but he does have a bit I'll be like, "Have you seen my phone?" He'll be like, "It's over on the kitchen counter over by the coffee," like, he'll know exactly where it is, and I'm like, "How do you do that?"
It's because he,
But
yeah,
I'm like, "Now
yeah,
if you could just make some money off that, that would be great." He says that
yeah.
about my movie trivia knowledge. He's like, "Cha-ching, too bad we don't know how to make money off that." All right, anything else?
No, relative to relationships, I really think it's all about conversation, about honesty. When we interrupt whomever we're interrupting, it's just about being delicate and honest again. We're all vulnerable. We're all human beings. We have ADHD. They have all kinds of fucked up shit. The difference is ours is out. It's we talk about it, we do things like this, we share with people listening. Everybody has something. You either see it or you don't, right? The difference is the more we can communicate about it, the more we can learn from each other, the more we can share, the better it is.
Have you struggled at all with RSD in your relationships?
I struggle with acronyms.
Oh.
I really seriously,
Yeah.
acronyms is a really I know that's funny and I meant it to be funny because I love my
Oh, that's
second
hilarious.
city and everything, but I do
Yes.
I do struggle with acronyms. It's a big
So
problem, especially with you know what I do for a living.
yeah. I
Yeah.
know, you guys have acronyms everywhere in your career. Rejection sensitive dysphoria.
I know what it is, and I think I do. Remind me.
It's it is like a very intense, usually pretty immediate response to a real or perceived rejection or criticism. So it doesn't even have to be real. You can just think it's real.
I used to have that pretty badly, really badly when I was younger. Now, I think after a decade of therapy, and by the way, therapy is so important if you have ADHD. If you can afford it and or find help, have support groups, even group therapy, please do it if you're listening to this because ADHD alone is really tough. I just say that that's my little PSA. Talk therapy helped me immensely with that because you grow up with so much shame and you don't know what that is and it's self-generated shame because you think you're not as good as anybody else because your brain doesn't work like everybody else and you make up so many stories about who you are because you're not like little Susie that you're sitting next to in kindergarten and you're not like, you know, Billy and because you're not doing things the same and because you come at it so differently, which is of course a blessing when you're old enough to see it, but you still are struggling with all those feelings and emotions. So I really, really struggled with RSD for a long, long time. Now that I remember what it is, um,
Yeah.
really, really, really did. And now I'll have jolts of it. To be fair and to be honest, I will definitely have jolts of it. But it's mainly like, interestingly enough, if I'm very tired or I've gone through a tough time at work or I'm hungry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if I'm overexposed to something or if I'm stressed out, I will react if I'm feeling criticized, but not to the extent that maybe even 10 years ago I had it.
Now that I know what it is, when I catch myself in what is potentially that, I try to ask myself questions because the other thing I always worry about is that I'm gaslighting myself. That I'm like,
Mm,
maybe they should be upset with you. Maybe you did do something and you're just trying to let yourself off the hook. And I'm very hard on myself sometimes, but
yes, you are.
I I am, but I usually can recognize it when I'm in it. And sometimes I just let myself go through it because I know if I just let myself feel sorry for myself for a couple of days or whatever, I then come out of it usually okay. But because I know on some level my brain is lying to me. And
You need to
but
call
s
me.
yeah, yeah. And that's well, but that brings up another thing, which is I think one of the other reasons because I've been accused of this a lot in my friendships, which is, you're always there for us, but you never come to us when you're struggling. And meaning I don't go to
Oh, that's
them.
a big thing. Oh, no, I got
Yeah.
it. I knew what you meant.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always struggled with asking for help,
Me too.
and yeah, it's a real struggle, and sometimes I really push myself out of my comfort zone to ask for help. I'm curious what your thoughts are. I sometimes think that part of why we don't ask part of it is because we're afraid we're gonna be seen as lazy or incompetent, but I also think that there was probably times when we were younger when we didn't have that, about asking, where we did ask for help and somebody made fun of us for asking for help for something that they thought was easy because they were neurotypical, but we thought it was challenging. So I think that might be part of it too.
For me, I always heard, and I think you'll recall this from our past conversations. I always heard, why do you have to always be so different? And
Mhm.
I heard that because I always came at things so differently from my sister and my brother.
Mhm.
And I always felt bad about myself for that. It's different now because I'm like, fuck you. I am different, you know? But that's the adult me. Like
Yeah.
the little Gigi was really hurt and bothered by that.
Yeah. I always just felt different, and I knew I was treated different. but I didn't really understand why that was, and I always felt like I just never fit in, and I still sometimes feel like that. I feel like
Me too.
I tell my kids this, and sometimes I have to remind myself this, that, fitting in is not the same as belonging, but because fitting in is where you have to change who you are to be accepted, and belonging is where you can be yourself. And I still
Yeah.
sometimes feel like I could spend so much time with people, and I still feel like there's this barrier, and it's really hard for me to get close to people because I feel like I'm not quite in that groove. And so I don't know if that's an ADHD thing or not, but I think it is kind of common for ADHD because we do feel different. But we also, like we said before, we do find our people. And
Yeah.
with those people, I definitely feel better, like with you, right? But there are some groups of people that I'm like, I guess I have had times where I'm like, I think I still struggle to understand when people like me or when they tolerate me.
They're not your tribe.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
your tribe. Fuck them. 'Em. I'm sorry.
No,
I
that's and as an adult, like it's a little bit easier for me now, but there's still that part of me that's just like, "Oh, why don't they like me?" But then I'm like, then they're not my cup of tea. And it's okay to be okay with that, but I still have to kind of grapple with the emotions of that because everybody wants to feel like they
well,
matter.
but
And
right, right. It's not about mattering though. It's about all the feelings that it brings up from when you were little.
yeah,
And that's what I was speaking to a few minutes ago, and that's what I really dealt with in therapy, and it was painful. Those are the feelings that when you're little and you don't know what that's from, and you forget about those stories of how you're treated so differently.
yeah.
And they come up and they come up and they come up. And that's what, when you have this sort of this feeling of disassociation by not feeling like you fit in, or the way you're treated, or maybe a sideways glance, and maybe that brings up a feeling but you don't really remember the story,
Mhm.
right? Or that moment when you were 4, or that moment when you were 14, or whatever that is. And you have these feelings that come up. That's really what's happening. It's not, it's that sort of that muscle memory. It's all those feelings that come up. And that's a big, big, big part of ADHD. And that's what we don't talk enough about, especially as women, because we have gone. When was it women? 1994 that the official diagnosis came out for women? 1994, wasn't it? For
I
women.
don't even know. Maybe, yeah.
I
But
think
even
that
then, they
it's
still didn't
Zoop.
include girls or women's in studies and any of that
No.
stuff. It was like, that's not that bad for them. I want to go back to what you said about responding to things from our childhood. The therapist that I just interviewed, she talks about that very thing. She goes, sometimes we're responding to things that aren't actually in front of us. That's how she described it, which is you're not having like if your partner says something in a certain way, you're not consciously thinking, "Oh, that reminds me when my third grade teacher made fun of me because I blah 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 blah," right? But you have that immediate, like you said, it's muscle memory. And, when I'm working with clients, I'm like, you're not always going to get this stuff. Like, you'll get the concept, but the muscle memory is very strong right now because that's all you've ever known. So we have to counter that too. And I think we don't give ourselves enough credit for for how hard that is sometimes. But yeah, I think that's a very good point, which is when you always feel different and you're treated as different, it does impact how you navigate the world and how you navigate your relationships.
We're strong cookies. I mean, we have to be. And that's why, the word resilient is used so often around women who have ADHD and women who have successfully navigated the waters to become powerful business owners, because of the way we build podcasts, build our own businesses, build successful registered investment advisories, build big women-owned businesses, etc. I mean, it's amazing what we can do with the ingenuity that's built inside of us, that's been given to us. I mean, when used properly, when we know what we have, it's a gift.
When women start to really embrace the out of the box thinking, a big part of it is self trust. That's a big component of my clients is like, I'm afraid to trust my judgment on this because I've been told I was wrong so much in the past. And I'm like, "Yeah, but a lot of the time you weren't actually doing it wrong. You were just doing it your way, and it wasn't the neurotypical way.
Yeah.
So they assumed it was wrong, but you would have still come up with the same answer, if not a better one."
Yeah.
And so, learning that self-trust, I still struggle with it. It's like, "Wait, am I doing this right? Or am I being impulsive? Should I wait? Should I wait?" And that not always trusting my instincts on things, right? And so that is something I do still struggle with, if I'm being honest. How about you?
Well, I've had my diagnosis a lot longer than you. And I think that, I mean, you've had it yours for quite some time, but I've had, and it's not a competition. I don't mean that at all.
No, but it makes a difference.
So I've been living with this, with my I've known forever. I've had my diagnosis for 22 years. Knowing that, I've had a longer time to understand it and to work with it. And like I said, to have therapy around it. And so, I mean, that I hopefully answers the question.
Yeah, and I think that is a testament to why it is good to always be learning about it. And I
Yeah.
I would say that even if you don't have ADHD, you should know how your brain works, you should know how you work. But especially for those of us who thought we were broken or just, a terrible person and lazy and undisciplined and blah, blah, blah.
Uh,
And yeah, right. I know for me, I got the diagnosis and there was somewhere in my brain, I think I thought, okay, well, this is now just going to get easier because now I know what this is. And you reached out to me like 3 months later, was like, "You haven't started meds yet, have you?" Because I was because I was drowning, and I was trying to act like I had it together. Because now I felt like, "Well, I don't have an excuse now. I know what this is. I just need to handle it." But I had no idea how my brain worked yet. So I'm so grateful that you had that conversation with me because that changed everything for me with starting medication. But even for people who can't do medication, the more you learn about your brain, the better off you are. But just getting the diagnosis ain't gonna make that happen. But
no,
a
no,
lot of
no,
women think it will, and I was one of
no.
them.
Well, once you have the diagnosis, that's a tip. That's the
Yeah,
tip of the iceberg, right? It's like the duck. You've got the duck here, and then under the water, the duck's going like this. That's all
yeah,
it is. You got the calm head now. Whoo, now what do I do, right? You have to understand what to do with those pedaling feet. And the
yeah.
more you understand why your brain is doing what it does, it starts to calm the feet down and it helps you help your brain understand what to do with the feet. Where do I go with my feet? What do I do? What path do I take next with my feet? That would be sort of the best analogy to use. You can get those feet to walk in the path you want them to walk in based on what your goals are. I mean, if you want to know, hey, I've got ADHD and do nothing with it, you're going to be miserable. All you're going to
Yeah.
know is I've got this, whatever it is, if you don't even know what kind of ADHD you have. Is it executive functioning? Do you have the hyperactivity portion of it? I mean, that pretty quickly.
Well, actually, a lot of people, like, like, I'm combined presentation, so I have both, and when
Yay!
go big or go home, um, but, like, when my daughter was diagnosed, she was diagnosed as inattentive, but they said she does have some hyperactive traits, but she just didn't have enough to qualify for as combined, right? My son is combined. He's much more on the hyperactive side. I'm much more on the inattentive side. And we all 3 look different.
Yeah,
And I think that's one of the
yeah,
things that makes it so hard for people to understand because 'cause they're like, "Well, I don't understand because I can focus sometimes for hours at a time," and they don't understand that that's hyper focus and that's not
yeah,
typical, right?
yeah.
And so when you can learn how to work that, and it's not like there's an on-off switch, but there's a way to figure it out where you can make it work to your benefit more often than it doesn't. But again, you have to understand how your brain works. I don't even know how we got on this tangent, but anyway.
No, well, I was talking about therapy and everything. And
Oh,
we
yeah.
started with we started with RSD.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, because that's topics come up a lot this month, and I know a lot of people who really struggle with it, but I've also seen some of my clients who really were a mess when they started, and they've built this over time, this little
Yeah,
toolbox, and now they get, "Okay, I know this kind of situation is going to get me overstimulated. This is what I do beforehand if I know I'm going into that situation and I can't get out of it." or this is what I do if I'm in it and it was unexpected and I just realize I'm spiraling, I can do this. And it's so great to see that. And that's why I tell people like you don't have to have all of the answers, but even when you can find those little baby steps that make a
Yeah.
difference, it encourages you to continue, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's knowledge is power. I mean, I know that's such an overused phrase, but it's the most important phrase we have. We're smart women.
Yeah.
And the people listening today, watching today, you're all smart. And that's really the most important thing you can take from today's discussion.
Yeah, so it's about your relationship with yourself,
Yeah, exactly
you know?
right. You yourself and yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You have to live with it. It doesn't matter anybody else in your life. You are literally the only person you have to live with for the rest of your life. So it doesn't hurt to know yourself a little bit. And I am constantly telling women with this who still feel like they don't know how they still feel very unsure. I'm like, you are a badass. You just haven't come to embrace that yet because you're still not trusting that yet. But
right.
I see it in you and you saw it in me when I certainly didn't see it in myself.
I sure
And
did.
so when a fellow ADHDer is telling you you're a badass, that should at least give you some hope because I like to be authentic about stuff like that. So, and I know you're the same way.
You are authentic.
I am.
You are
I try to be.
authentic. You are authentic. The other thing is, words that all women use, not just women with ADHD, that I would love women to scrap. I just want to throw this out there is the word
Yeah.
little. Get rid of the word
Mm,
little. Women with ADHD, I note, use it more than almost all women. The word little, can't stand that word. And apologize. Stop apologizing.
yes. I really try to catch myself with that. And I don't always do it, but I have gotten much better about
You
it.
have gotten so much better, and I applaud you.
Well, I
Yeah.
learned a lot from you. See, this is
Well,
why friendships are so great because you learn from each other.
and then the only other thing I'd like to add,
Mhm.
because I can add a lot, not always good, but is when you were talking about trusting yourself and not judging yourself and trusting yourself. I think the other component that's really important is trusting also your intuition.
Mhm.
Knowing that you can do it, trusting your capabilities, but also paying attention to your intuition. That's not just your that's not just your capabilities, knowing that you can do it whether you have ADHD or not, but the fact that as women, our intuition is spot on, and just to be thinking about and paying attention to your intuition.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. I do struggle with that. I'm getting better at that. To me, that kind of goes in with the self-trust. It's different than trusting your capabilities, like you just said, but sometimes I think we tend to interchange that, but they're two different things in my book. I find that trusting my intuition feels more subtle, and I think that's why I don't trust it. You know how I said, go big or go home? That's what I need. I need, like, a big ass sign that's like, "Take this move. Do this." 'Cause
Yeah.
my brain's like, I overthink it, otherwise I'm like, "Well, should I? I kinda feel like I should. I don't know." The overthinking is brutal.
Instead of that, I think what people with ADHD should do, women with ADHD should do is the opposite. I think what helps me quite a bit, and I'm a big meditator. Well, I'm a medium-sized person who meditates a lot, actually. I'm trying to really work on my grammar. I have pretty good grammar, but sometimes I slip up. I think what's really important is when you're really uncertain about something, a person, a situation, is if you were to close your eyes and you just ask, whether it's the
Mm,
universe, your higher power, whatever, but really you're asking yourself.
yeah.
'Cause that's the bottom line. That's what you're doing. You're asking yourself. And you just find it, you just ask yourself and you just see, like for me, and this, Jory, like for me, it's like, when the hair on my arms stand up about something, I know I'm in the right direction, right? Like if I'm excited or something like that. Like I think that we don't give ourselves enough credence. I think that if we're able to if we were able to just stay calm enough and just ask ourselves, what should I do? The answer may not come right away, but it'll come during the day or the next day or in a dream.
It's interesting that you said that. I just remembered about, like, gut feelings. Mine was much stronger when I was younger, and I think I just tuned it out after a while, but I remember me and my friend Kristen, we would be getting ready to go out, and I'd be like, "I have a feeling in my stomach," and we'd both be like, "Crap," because almost always when that happened, we would run into a guy we didn't wanna see, like, every time. And she's like, "Oh, I wonder who it's gonna be." I'm like, "I don't know." But, like, almost every single time, and I
Mhm.
when you said that, I was like, "I wonder why I started tuning that out because I was never wrong, like, it always happened, you
Yeah.
know?" So,
Well, because
interesting
you
stuff.
didn't want to run into that person. But I mean, I think for anything, and I think intuition's really important in that. I think that will help build our strength, the strength that we need.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I'm sorry for getting airy fairy.
Oh, that's perfectly wonderful. This has been so much fun, and so I wanna thank everybody for joining us for the inaugural episode of the Panel of
Panel
2.
panel of two.
2. With Jorie and Gigi. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully you've stuck with us this whole time. We're having a great time. We hope you are. But let us know. Like put in the comments or DM me or send me an email and tell me some of the things that we talked about today. Do you resonate with any of those? I would love to hear what you and it doesn't always have to be like serious bad stuff. Like just some of your funny things like where maybe you found your phone, right? Cuz
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we're not the only ones who found theirs in their fridge or other places. So let us know and also, if you are liking the show, please follow the show, leave a review, and share this with a friend. I have a link in the show notes that makes it super easy to leave a review. Thank you so much, Gigi, for doing this with me. This was so much fun.
This
And
is so
hopefully
much
we'll get to do it
fun.
again.
And if we do, what are some funny things we could talk about? I mean, you and I actually, when we're not serious, but we talk about funny shit, we get rolling.
I know. Well, just organization alone. When I did my interview with you, you're like, that's like one of the myths. We're very organized. I'm like, okay. You know, think you're an anomaly on that one, but all right. So, I'm like, "You've seen my office. You know otherwise for me." Anyway, we'll find some fun things to
Sorry,
talk about because
tangent.
we definitely have had some very good laughs at our own expense in a good way. Next week starts season 3. So thank you for being here, whether you just joined us today or you've been with us from the beginning. I really appreciate you listening, and I will see you next time. And until then, you know what I say, stay curious.
Thanks, Jory.